All right, so we are live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We have our episode 6 live episode. We want to do another episode to actually celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, which is also linked to Latin culture. So we are celebrating Hispanic and Latin culture overall. So for people that might not know or are familiar with the podcast, my name is Roberto Mota. I'm one of the co-hosts, and I'll let every single one of them introduce themselves. Daisy?
Hi everyone, my name is Daisy Shu and I am a postdoc at Scape and Eye Research Institute at Harvard, and I'm delighted to be celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month today.
Marina?
Hello everyone, I'm Marina Anastasiou. I just graduated from my PhD program, so I'm officially a doctor. And I cannot believe it's Hispanic Heritage Month celebration already. We've been planning for it. We're here for it. It's going to be great. Vic?
Hi, everyone. I'm Vic Meadows. I'm a graduate student at Indiana University in Indianapolis, and I'm very excited to be celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with some of my favorite people from ASA. And I'm also excited because I am myself Latina, and I'm very proud of being Venezuelan.
Awesome. I have to say, I didn't introduce some of the other things that I have. So yes, I am Roberto Mota. I am Mexican as it comes. And I am a research assistant professor at the University of Pittsburgh in the Department of Surgery. So we are very happy. Hope you guys enjoyed the mini episode. What do you guys think about the last mini episode I did with Alex? What do you guys think?
It's hilarious. I really enjoyed it. And especially the reactions, I think, were the funniest.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very entertaining.
That's nice to hear.
I think you guys have a career in comedy. You guys are an amazing duo.
He was
like a good duo, bouncing off of each other.
He's a great guy. Alex, it was great. I cracked. I told him that I cracked when the Peter Parker was. I couldn't stop laughing for quite a while. So yeah, I mean, it was a great segment. Hopefully we'll be able to do more of those with different people and showcase some of these findings. I thought it was a good initiative. I mean, he was able to plug in his research, which is great. And then we were able to see another side of this research scientist going through all of this. So fantastic. So with that in mind, we have 3 amazing guests. So we have 3 people that are going to be joining us throughout the episode and telling us a little bit more about their heritage, about how they identify Hispanic, Latin, how they look at all of these different things going around, which are basically highlighting people that are doing either great work or are celebrating it in their own different way. We also have 2 giveaways. So we have 2 coffee gift cards that we are going to give away. One of them we're going to have the slide, which is a trivia question, and then the other one we'll just do it through Twitter. So with that in mind, I mean, the first thing that we're going to try to address, because next week is PISA. So this is almost like the mid-annual meeting that the American Society of Investigative Pathology has. So how do you guys feel about these hybrid, non-hybrid, end of the line turning into virtual meetings? I've had a couple since the last time that when we started the podcast, and I think things have changed from very bad to being like almost good, and then we all went bad again. So how are you guys feeling with these new scenarios?
I'm currently in, well, it just ended, this hybrid retinal degeneration conference, and it was originally meant to be in person in Nashville, and because of the spike in cases, it turned to be a hybrid format, which has been pretty interesting, like me attending virtually. I think I'm missing out on a lot of the fun because they do all these like interactive excursions and things in Nashville, and they get to talk to each other, and they always break for afternoon tea and stuff where they actually get like free coffee, and I'm missing out. But then the good thing is, like, during those breaks I get to do experiments, so I'm like pipetting. So I'm not sure if it's the best thing for me, because like I feel like it's a lot to handle, Because usually when I'm on a conference, I'm in like conference mode and I can chill and just enjoy the talks. But now I'm like in both worlds. And so my brain is pretty much fried.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would echo
The
off that.
hardest part. I feel like, sorry, Vic, I feel like you can get your mind in conference mode or in work mode, but it's hard when you're doing both. I haven't actually been in a hybrid conference yet, but I'm involved in 2 conferences right now, completely virtual, and it's so much. It's a lot of work and a lot of concentration. So I think a hybrid conference might be better, because then we wouldn't overcommit to just trying to get the best of everything all the time, which has been the case when we're doing virtual conferences. But then again, everything has like a good side and a bad side.
Yeah, that's very true. Definitely handling lab work while attending a conference is really hard because you can't really commit fully to either. So I agree with Daisy and Marina that you get stretched thin. We recently had a conference be like turned fully virtual and it was supposed to be hybrid. So that was really disappointing because it's the liver meeting. It's like a big meeting for liver research and they have a really fun party. And I was like, man, I wanted to dance with a bunch of scientists. Darn. Maybe next year.
Yeah, I think we're all like just experiencing this exhaustion because I mean, I was doing surgery while attending a TBV. I've been asked about being like social media ambassador, and I feel like I am not off my phone, and not because I don't want I want to be off my phone, but I keep like tweeting and then doing this and that and lab work and then grants and all that. It's been difficult times, I think, for balancing work and like personal time. So yeah, it's hard to actually just take your mind off of that and then just like being present, like Daisy was saying, like I want to be in conference mode. I want to go out. I want to do everything. And I always like for my kids, it was always fun because if I go to like last time they were to Orlando, I remember it was like 3-4 years ago, they went to Disney World. So they're always thinking about that, like where's the next conference going to be at. So yeah, I mean, it's a new learning process, and hopefully, with vaccination rates going up, we'll be able to do that all along. So, yeah, we're going to be missing some of these, particularly because also after PISA, next April we have the last meeting for the American Society of Investigative Pathology, EB. Hopefully, you guys are coming to Philadelphia, which is really close to us, and hopefully it'll be a great end of the journey meeting because it's the last time experimental biology will be able to be attended. So with that in mind, I mean, hopefully things work out better. But yeah, let's shift a little bit about this topic, and then let's go into the importance here, which is the Hispanic Heritage Month. So before we bring our first guest in, Beck mentioned she is Venezuela. She's from Venezuela. And one of the main things that I wanted to get out, and because we're trying to like promote this in a really like strong fashion, is how does being or identifying Hispanic or Latin has changed your career or modified your career, Vic?
I think it makes me recognize the importance of background and culture and personal experiences for each scientist into their research, because it's easy to assume that everybody has the same experience and therefore starting off at the same level. But once you get to know somebody and you know that they have like a really rich and deep culture behind them and their work, it seems like it's more profound and personal, like each experience, you know?
Yeah, no, I bet. How about you, Daisy? Because I mean, I'm not saying you're not Hispanic. I know that, but you have in your lab has a lot of people that have diverse background. Do you think not only diversity, but also the engagement from the culture that they bring, the engagement of their how they identify, how everything else, has that been at all being represented wherever you work, and the professional life that you guys have, and mixing together with the work balance that you guys have in your institution?
Yeah, our institution is very multicultural, lots of international students and postdocs. So I love that it is so multicultural, and I grew up in a very multicultural suburb, in Australia. So I've always been surrounded by just a diversity of different ethnicities. And I do think that that really helps to just enrich the whole experience of doing research, and just the things that people kind of talk about. I think there's like certain sayings as well. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but like someone will relate something to a saying that they have in their culture, and it'll be really like pertinent to the situation. I'm like, oh, that's a great, refreshing way of looking at it. And these sayings may not exist in English, for example. And just, I would say the diversity of foods, all these different cuisines, especially if we have a potluck, then I get to enjoy the fruits of being in a multicultural community.
How about you, Marina? Because I know that, I mean, when you talk about like Hispanic, Latin culture, I mean, being in Europe, you're also part of the lab from Pilar, and Pilar has that that heritage as well. So from that background, how does it like relate or affect, or not affect, but I mean, what effect does it have on you guys?
Yeah, the lab I did my research had a lot of Hispanic members, but also it very much accepted diversity in every shape and form. So I was able to value that and recognize how important it was, especially coming from a country that is not so diverse compared to the US. So it was a really valuable experience for me. But at the same time, I have to say it takes some adjusting, because you learn something new. So I can definitely appreciate how hard it is at first to understand certain diversity issues that have to do with the language, especially. Me being international gave me some understanding, because I also struggled with language. So I think in a lab setting, being international and Hispanic sometimes comes with not being as easy with the English language. And because of that shared experience, I felt like it was easier for me to bond with my Spanish counterparts in the lab. But yeah, also the food thing, that's a huge part of it. Like Daisy said, that's very important in shaping our experience. But also I want to add the TV thing, because I was surprised at how many TV shows we watched as kids were similar in all the different countries. Hispanic, Greek, it doesn't matter. TV transcends ethnicity. It's the cultural phenomenon of our time.
Yeah, it does. And I think it overlaps with many other things that we have in our upbringing that relate us to each other. So that helps a lot. So with that, I'm going to let Vic introduce our first guest, because you know a little bit more than I do. So I want to make justice about Michelle. So let's introduce the first guest.
All right. Well, I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Michelle Alves.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to join our live episode. I know it's a little intimidating, but we're really thankful that you and the other guests decided to say yes. Could you tell us a little bit about where you're from and, you know, just a little brief introduction?
Yes. So I am Michelle. I am from Brazil, and currently I am postdoc trainee at Ohio State University.
The Ohio State, right?
The Ohio State, yes, you're right.
I'm not from the Midwest, but I know the Midwest enough that is a thing.
Yeah, that is a thing.
Well, so what is the culture shock? Did you have a culture shock when you got to Ohio State?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Can you share us what was it that was most striking?
I think the most striking in the beginning when I got here was the language barrier, for sure. And I still struggling until this day. And every day I learn a little bit, but that was like a shock in the beginning. But the university is very diverse. So that feels, on the other hand, makes me feel really embraced for everyone, because it's so like you can find all type of culture and people of all different backgrounds there.
Oh, that's really nice. So what would you say diversity in research means to you then?
Ooh. Okay. I think it means how you bring different backgrounds for the research, for the science, and how you deal in a different way to solve different problems, let's say in this way. How to deal to facing failures in your experiments, or or something related to. I think that I can tell that's really different. Like as a Brazilian, we say that we do not give up easily, and it is. I can tell that when I have a diversity in an experiment, I will try until I get that's right.
That's beautiful. That's awesome.
Thanks, Michelle. And finally, for our last question, which is more of a fun question, for this year, what would you say is a word or theme that sums up your year?
Ooh. Awards. Oh man. Okay, so I would try to explain a word that came in my head, that it is ginga. That's a Portuguese word. I don't know the translation. I don't think that has the translation.
Let's ask Google. I'll ask him while you do that.
Yeah, it is the way that to deal with things. Ginga comes from capoeira. That's like
martial arts dance.
Yeah, it is.
That
like
is. I do that in body combat.
Yeah, it is a
My gym
fight.
class.
Yes, it is a fight mixed with dance, and then the way that you move your body, that's how means ginga. Like the way that you move your body, the way that can be fluid in face of different circumstances.
That's a good word.
Yeah, that's such a good word. This is what I meant when the culture enriches our English experience, because there are certain words that don't translate, or like as in they don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you have to use 10 different words to define this one word in like our native language. I don't know.
Exactly. It happens all the time with Greek words. I'm completely familiar with that.
Michelle, I had a question for you, and try to bridge in between again the whole Hispanic Latin intermix. There's a lot of them, and an interesting thing that I'd never thought about, but my kids love. So we learned about this clowns, and I'm saying clowns as in like a real profession, clowns, that they sing these songs. They're called, I'm not sure if you know about them. They're called Patachi Patata. I'm not sure if you know about them.
Oh, yes.
Well, let me tell you that this thing is huge in my house.
Really?
So we found out about them because we were watching a show that I know that people in Brazil really love, which is Mexican. It's called the Chavo del Ocho, which is, let me think the translation, which is
Chavez. Yeah.
Chavez. That's what it is. Yes. So we were watching the show. We watched this thing, and then the clowns came in, and then now my kids, they start singing in this Portuguese songs from these clowns, and they're pretty entertaining. I mean, I find myself singing them often. So I found that it's like more of the things that we actually do mix in between each other, and the mixture of like accents and all of this builds up upon this intercultural similarities that they appear to be important, but when it mix in something that someone that comes in from a different country, and then you bring them in, and then they find that you actually know a little bit about what they do or some things that are important for them, it starts becoming something that bridges and builds upon those relationships. So it's just something that I remembered back from Brazil. So it was sort of like nice when I found out about the show that was really familiar in Brazil. So with that, Michelle, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being, because we know that you follow us on Twitter and that we have a constant interaction. So we appreciate that. And hopefully this is not the last time that you come into the podcast. I mean, hopefully later on you can show some of your science and talk about something else.
Yes, I will be delighted to be invited again. And thank you so much for having me today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so should we go with the first giveaway before the second guess?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's try to do this. So hopefully, do we have someone? Have you heard anything on Twitter, Daisy? Marina, Vic, you
No,
guys?
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna post some more things. We have oh, we do.
Okay.
Wait,
So,
we have some stuff coming through, but not yet like a comment. I'm gonna say so whoever comments and tweets about our YouTube live episode will be able to be in the running for
okay.
a Starbucks card.
So this is the question. So we want to learn, and hopefully someone can give us the answer. So because this is considered, again, Hispanic and Latin Heritage Month, we know that there are many Latin American countries that celebrate their anniversary or independence overall in September. So if the first person can give us 2 with the date wins the first gift card. We can give them a couple of minutes, and probably by the end of that, we'll have an answer, and then we'll show the responses, because there's a couple of countries, but we only need 2 with the actual date through Twitter, and then you will win a gift card.
How much time did you give them, Roberto? Because maybe everyone is at a conference. It looks like a trend these days.
So let's give them like a couple until the end of our second speaker. By that time, then we'll do that. So let's introduce the next speaker. Marina, can you introduce this Veronica?
Sure. Our next speaker is Dr. Veronica Contreras, and we know her through ACIP, of course. She's very involved in mentoring and teaching us a ton of things in addition to her science. But here, she's here because she's also celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. So Veronica, take it away. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. First, thank you guys for having me here today. So as you mentioned, I'm Veronica Contreras Shannon, and I am originally from San Jose, California. I am a daughter of an immigrant. So my father came to the United States from Mexico when he was 15. My mother was born just inside the border, Texas border. And I am now a professor at St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas. And of course, my phone's ringing.
That's fine. We understand it's managing the work-life balance. It's always hard. So Veronica, let's start with something pretty simple. Thank you for the introduction. What do you think, or how do you think your background, your heritage, prepared you to face adversity? And I say that because, again, my parents are Mexican. They're still in Mexico, but many of those things that were taught to us from our upbringing sort of like translate and bleed out into like our professional lives. So how did that face with you?
So you mean like besides like knowing how to curse in Spanish?
Yeah, that's normally that I've learned from, like, French is another big one to actually curse at, but nothing. I mean, when I curse here in the United States, I normally do it in Spanish. People don't know what I'm saying, so it's normally like good. So yeah. What other things?
So I guess I thought it was a hard question, but then I started thinking, both my parents were farm workers in California, one in the Central Valley and one in Northern California. And their families, came to the United States because they wanted more opportunity and they wanted things to be better. And so, they had to deal with a lot of trauma and a lot of, poor economics, a lot of disparities, a lot of discrimination, and just a lot of hard human work. And so, when I put that in perspective, like what's hard for them or what's hard for them or their generation or even the generations before them, I can't, there's no comparison between what was hard for them and what's hard for me. And so I think one of the things I take away from this background is that, they have taught me that you just need to work hard and you need to go for what you want and to not let any things get in the way, big or small. So I think that's one of the important things. Also to take advantage of opportunities, to improvise, and to have faith, that there's going to be a better day after whatever adversity I'm going through today.
Thanks, Veronica. That was great.
Okay, so our next question for you, Veronica, is who is a Hispanic or Latin researcher that you have been inspired by?
Right. So I'm going to preface this and say that I know that there are a lot of Hispanic researchers that have made great contributions to biomedical sciences, and they've been awarded Nobel Prizes, and there's even some making big contributions right now. But I actually want to focus on my peer and colleague and friend for 24 years. Her name is Dr. Consuelo Walls-Bass. She works at the UT Health Science Center in Houston, and she's a professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences. So I've known her for 24 years. She's also an immigrant from Mexico. She came here to do her master's to San Antonio. And then we know each other because we did our PhD together. And I pick her because she has led the way. And so I've seen what it's like to be, a Latina working through a PhD and juggling what do you do next and a family, and do I move? How do I change careers? How do I deal with all of these things? And all that to just say that it's really good to have someone in the trenches with you. So she has been, my connection to my culture, and also just a sounding board for science and life. And so I think everybody needs that kind of person.
Well, that's very true. It's really nice whenever you can have someone that can relate to you, or at least like you guys can empathize with each other as you're going through things. So I have a question for you, and this might be a little too vague, but hopefully you'll be able to enlighten us with some of your brilliant answers. How do you think that we could increase diversity in research?
Okay, so I guess, first about diversity, right, is that making sure that there's plenty of different people, and it can be different in so many ways, right? Age, religion, race, sex, all these different things, right? So I think that the way we can increase, and I'm a teacher, I teach a lot of undergraduates, is that I don't think we can have gatekeepers who decide who is cut out to pursue STEM disciplines. And not that there's a specific gatekeeper, there's going to be different gatekeepers. Like there might be that high school counselor that says, no, don't do this because you're not cut out for it. Or there could be the OChem professor who's not being very flexible. So there's a lot of different gatekeepers. And I think, as an educator, I feel like it's my job to help whoever's in the seat in front of me. They got there for whatever reason, so they must have the skills And so it's my job to help them figure out how to be successful. And so I think that's one way, is to make sure that we're meeting people where they are and giving them the tools to do whatever they want to do. The other thing is, I think we need to be, and it falls along the same line, we need to be inclusive. So we can't decide that that type of person or this type of person isn't going to be the right person to do research. And we need to value different skill sets. So I can go on about that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That is, all of those are very true, and you make some really valid points. So thank you.
So
Veronica,
Veronica, now that you answered how to increase diversity in research, we want to throw you an easier question, or it may be harder depending on how good of a cook your family was, members of your family were. So what was your favorite food that you had as a child and that you miss, that you don't necessarily have right now, or you don't have the exact version of right now? So what would you say is that? Is that an easy or a hard question?
I don't have the exact version is the correct one. So I would say three things: tamales, carnitas, and pozole, because not just because of the food, but all of these things were done like big. You know, all my aunts getting together and making tamales, or my dad in the front yard with the caso, with the pig, whole pig, making carnitas. So all these things are like celebrations and family affairs. So eating them is not just good, but it reminds me of being home.
Yeah, makes sense. But if you had to pick one, because the question is one favorite food, so
I'd say tamales.
you cannot ask a Mexican to just pick one food. Like 20, there's 20 every time.
I know, it's hard, it's hard. Fair enough. Thank you, Veronica.
Okay, so with that, we thank you, Veronica, for your time. We appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. We know that you're part of many different committees at the American Society of Investigative Pathology, and hopefully, I mean, we've also been a big contributor to many of our careers in counseling, advice, participation. We've done sessions together for the diversity committee at the ASIP. So thank you so much for your help, and hopefully this won't be the last time that you're in the podcast.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Okay, so I'm gonna put in the answers for the giveaway, but also because we are highlighting Hispanic and Latin Heritage Month, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. I'm turning a curveball to all of my co-hosts, but you do remember Dr. Victor Garcia Martinez, right? So he was our first, one of our first interviewers or interviewees. So in the news, Merck actually just released that molnupiravir, the drug that he presented his work and that he has shown that stopped COVID in mice, has been showing like really good results in humans. So big win for someone that was like here with us and has a big Mexican heritage. And so incredibly proud to say like big news about people, particularly again, because I'm Mexican, I love saying those things, but also because we know that it was a part of the podcast, and hopefully we'll be able to have him later on when he wins like Nobel Prize or something. Maybe we'll be able to like how, yeah. So so great. So I'm gonna put it together. So there was a couple of countries that we were looking for, and again, there's multiple countries that are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. So the answer is, and the first one is in September 15th, is Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. So those are specifically for September 15th. Mexico is September 16th. Chile is September 18th. And we know Brazil, again, some people call Hispanic or from Latin America, but we consider them as part of the same thing. We're the same culture overall. So September 7th, that's when they celebrate their independence. So with that, I mean, we'll go back to Twitter and see who gave us the right answer, and then we'll do the first giveaway. And so then with that, we will have to introduce our third guest, Daisy.
Yep. So I'm delighted to introduce our third and final guest. So we have Francine Marquez here today, and she's a fellow Australian. So I'm very excited to have her on our podcast. Feel free to introduce and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me in the podcast. It's a pleasure. And it's actually the first time that I'm asked to talk about my heritage, which is really exciting. So I'm from Brazil. I was born in Porto Alegre in the south of Brazil. And when I was 22, 21 years old, I had just finished my master's and I decided to have a gap year. I don't know in the US, but Australians love gap year. So that's usually a year that they take to travel. And I decided that I was going to do something similar. So the intention was that I was going to come to Australia, have my gap year and go back to Brazil to do my PhD. And after I was here for about 3 months, I fell in love with Australia and I decided to stay. So I had the opportunity to start a training in a lab and apply to do a PhD at Sydney Uni. So the same place that Daisy is from. And I did my PhD there, had a fantastic experience, a fantastic supervisor, and that inspired me to stay in research. So I moved around Australia a bit. I'm now in Melbourne and just love it. So I was able to secure a fellowship after I finished my PhD and then another fellowship. And now I have a lab. So I'm an associate professor and I have a lab with 13 people. And as we're talking about diversity, I was counting in my head and going through like everybody. And we have a lab that is highly diverse. And we actually have 10 of those 13 people. They come from mixed heritages and from all over the world. So I have, just by coincidence now, one PhD student who is Brazilian, but besides, and another one that is from Colombia. But besides that, like people are all over the place. I have a student who is Chinese, but grew up in Buenos Aires in Argentina. I have a postdoc who is Chinese, but then did his training in Europe. I have a PhD student who is from Somalia and migrated when she was little. So we're actually all over the place, and it's amazing what that brings to our team.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I would love to be part of a lab like this. Like, it's such a great experience, especially if you're an undergrad. I feel like getting to see all this diversity must be amazing as an undergrad. So I wanted to ask you, Francine, like, how do you think your background and diversity has affected your everyday career? How do you bring it to life every day? I mean, obviously you have a multicultural, very diverse lab, so that is one way. What are some other ways, do you think?
I think the diversity, the cultural diversity that I come from makes me more aware of the cultural diversity of everybody else. So it also, and something that has resonated a lot with me lately is about privilege. And when we talk about privilege, I know that's a lot of the time we talk about gender and we talk about race specifically. But I think we need to go far beyond that and also talk about privilege of living and growing up in a safe place, of having access to education, access to food. And of course, all of those things are going to, in the end, be impacted by our race, by our heritage as well. And I think it just made me much more aware of how those factors can impact on our career path. And that not everybody has the same career path, and that's okay. That's okay to come from a different diversity and to be a completely different leader than what we see at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we all became a little bit more aware of our privilege in the last year, but I definitely see how being from a diverse cultural background can also help in these situations. And I also wanted to ask you the same question we asked Veronica. How do you think you can enhance research through diversity? Are there some ways that come in mind?
Yeah. So definitely the main thing will be, we talk a lot about, I think it's easy to compare to just diversity in research. So we talk about the importance of having diverse teams. If we want to have research that is impactful, that in my case, I'm a medical researcher that is going to have an impact in health. We need a big and diverse teams to solve big, complex problems. Like the problems that we still have these days, they are not just a simple problem that we're going to solve with just a few people with a few skills. And to be able to do that, we need diversity in terms of skills. But I think that also is going to reflect the diversity in the heritage and the culture that our teams are bringing, because people are going to assess problems from a different perspective because of that rich diversity that they all have based on their life experiences and where they came from. So I think that can have a key contribution in changing the way that we do research if we actually allow everybody to be represented. And in the end of the day as well, we need to consider that the research that we're doing, the impact that we want to have is not just for a minority that are already represented in research. We want, in my case, health to be advanced to everybody to have the opportunity to have, a COVID vaccine, everybody to have the opportunity to have medical treatment, in my case, for cardiovascular disease. And if we're not doing research that represents the issues that everybody faces, we're not going to get to a solution that is going to represent all of these communities.
Yeah, that is very important, especially for every disease really in the health sciences, but cardiovascular disease is, obviously a big one. So it's very important that we face this head on, and diversity seems to be one way of doing it. So thank you so much.
Okay, and look, in the end of the day, like as I said, I haven't counted now how many actually countries we represent. We speak about 10 different languages in my team, but we also have this diversity reflected in the research that we do. So I run a lab that does discovery research, so lab-based research. We also do bioinformatics work, as most people do these days, as well as clinical research. So we have in our team clinicians, dietitians, immunologists, physiologists, molecular biologists, geneticists, and so on. So we need that cultural, we need that research diversity to be able to solve the problem. But I think the cultural side of the diversity is also really important because of this representation. So we can find solutions that actually represent and work for the majority of our populations.
Thank you, Francine. That was great. And I think moving forward with following episodes, we would love to know a little bit more about your research, which is we learn more and more that we have so many people that we want to interview that I think we have vast amount of people that we might want to bring in and then just do more episodes. But yeah, it sounds really interesting. The last piece is, I think is the trickiest and most hardest question that you're going to be asked today. And it's going to be by me because unfortunately I know a lot about Brazilian culture. So I want to showcase it more. So I have 3 questions for you so that you can show off a little bit more about Brazil and the culture, right? Because I do love it. So can you tell everyone what a brigadeiro is?
Oh, okay, good. Because when you're asking the other speakers about their favorite food and something that they miss, that's something definitely that I miss a lot. Especially the facility of just going into a shop and just buying one, not having to do a whole lot. So brigadeiro is sweet, like a dessert made of condensed milk that you cook with chocolate. So it's really rich, but it's really, really delicious. And that's something that we grow up with. So when you go to kids' birthday parties, or these days they even have like fancy versions, that's what you have like for the sweets. Not like in Australia, they have like this just white bread that they put like butter and sprinkle some colorful stuff on top. And I just cannot understand. I feel so sorry for the kids here missing out on brigadeiros. Yeah. So
fairy bread.
Yes, fairy bread. Thank you.
Yeah. So the next question. So if I wanted to make a caipirinha, which alcohol should I use?
Cachaça. No. If you're desperate, yeah. But cachaça. Yeah.
So the people that, can you tell them, like, people more about what a caipirinha is? Because I mean, I drink a lot of them, but.
So caipirinha is an alcoholic drink made of cachaça, which would be sugarcane spirit with sugar and lime. So it's delicious. Yeah.
We only talk about like condensed milk and like sugar, and like if I start talking about Mexican desserts, I mean demographics about having like diseases it's always easy to find, because we're definitely going in that direction. And the last one, and I'm not sure, are you a big soccer fan?
No,
No?
not anymore. No.
Okay, but there's a big rivalry in Brazil, and soccer is taking pretty seriously. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
so there's a big rivalry over there between two teams. I mean, there's many others, right? But like Flamengo and Fluminense, do you have a preference for any one of them, or anyone in your family like really were like hardcore fans?
Yeah, but not for any of those. So I'm from the south of Brazil, so we have our own enemies there.
Okay.
So I support Grêmio, and we have our enemies.
So international.
Yes,
International.
yes, international. Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. So it's great when we find out about other. I mean, in Latin America, soccer is big and is growing more and more here in the States. And I think more people are actually getting more familiar with it. And in other countries, is also like happening a lot. So yeah, it's great to learn a little bit more about that, and hopefully people get more interest in some of these different alternatives overall. So with that, Francine, we thank you for your time. Thank you for being in the podcast, and hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Definitely.
Okay, so I think with that, I mean, we're going to wrap up this episode. Do we have anyone that replied to that? Because I've been trying to look, but I haven't been able to. Do we have a winner?
We currently do not, but I hope that, well, I haven't released the answer, so they can still answer the thing on that question on Twitter. They can still comment. Whoever comments and shares their favorite Hispanic food on Twitter with a GIF or just any images or just a text, that is also welcome as an entry for the chance to win a Starbucks gift card.
Awesome. So yeah, with that, we're gonna wrap up the episode. Are you guys excited about PISA next week? Are you guys giving talks at all?
Yes, which I have to prepare.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of nervous because I was like, ooh, that's next week. And then I got the calendar invites. I was like, oh, it's next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Like end of next week.
So let's go.
It's my first PISA not giving a talk or a poster.
Do you guys want to go around and tell us what time your presentation is? What about you, Vic? So what time is which day is your presentation? We have, it's October 5th to the 7th. Which day are you talking?
I mean, I'm a little upset you're calling me out because I don't know. I just know that I am co-chairing the liver session.
If it's liver, it's Thursday. It's Thursday.
Okay, so Thursday then. I am co-chairing the liver session as well. And I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Monga.
Yes,
He's going to be giving the keynote talk. And then I'm also presenting one of my side projects on histamine and bile acid signaling. So I'm pumped about that.
Awesome. Cool. What about you, Daisy?
I will be presenting on Wednesday, and I'm in the inflammation session. I think I'm at 4:45 p.m. So check it out. And then I'm co-moderating a session on Thursday, the epithelial mucosal biology session, and I am excited to introduce our special keynote speaker, Dr. Asma Nusrat. So that's going to be super exciting. Yeah, I need to prepare, like absolutely need to dedicate this weekend to preparing. So that's going to be me.
And Marina,
we're on this.
You're not presenting, but I know that it's different because you moved out of Pilar's lab. But are there any specific talks that they're giving or anything in particular that you can highlight?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited about the Al-Qaeda Lab's work. I know a lot of them are going to be presenting, and a lot of people that moved out of the Al-Qaeda Lab are also still presenting, especially in the sessions about heart failure, microbiome, And I'm also very excited about me not participating in the sense that I can actually enjoy the conference without having to stress out about my presentation all the time. So I cannot believe it's my first piece and not participating. And I'm excited to just suck up all the research and I cannot wait. But also, Roberto, I know you have students presenting. That's a first for us, for our group. So can you tell us about their work?
Yeah, no, I am beyond myself. I don't know how to react about this because, so it's as a new faculty, we started developing these projects looking at TLR4 deficiency and affecting liver regeneration. I have two trainees that are presenting. So I have there's one postdoc. Her name is Nishma Al-Sadi. She's going to be presenting on liver regeneration and in the role of, again, TLR deficiency, but increasing mortality. And then I have an undergraduate that's presenting on the same session after Dr. Manga on, did I say Thursday? I think it's Thursday or Friday. Yeah, Thursday. I think it's Thursday. Also presenting on TLR4 deficiency directly on PDGF. So I'm really excited. I mean, it's my first time, like I'm nervous. I don't know, it's a different nervous. Like I was nervous in the beginning. I mean, in the past meetings for like myself, now this is a little different. So it's a different type of nervous, but I'm really excited because they did a fantastic job, and it'll be a great session. They already had trained and they tried out their talks, and I'm really excited because again, I'm fascinated by how much you can actually move forward, and they both have been doing a fantastic job. So yeah, so I'm very excited, and hopefully everyone that can listen and are going to be around. Registration is free to my knowledge for members. It's $25 for non-members. It's 3 days of science, and we have different this is a meeting based on trainees, so most of the people that are going to be in this meeting is to train are trainees, and it's a great initiative because we want to highlight the people that are being featured in it have the opportunity to just not do posters and compete among each other to like 1 or 2 spots for this. We want to highlight all their work, their efforts, and then being able to promote it in a bigger and huge setting, which is a national conference. So with that in mind, I think we have more episodes to come. We've done different interviews. Vic has a couple of interviews coming forward. Marina has one as well, I believe 1 or 2. And then Daisy, we have to redo the 7.3 questions because it was a really nice segment.
People in mind for that.
Yeah, so they really liked it. I heard a couple of things about that. So with that in mind, I mean, we're going to wrap up episode 6. Anything else you want to add, guys?
In the happy hour on Monday, 6:30 Eastern time, tune in and meet all the trainees. Michelle, our guest today, will also be in it, as well as Alex, who was in the STEM Ground Insults. So that's going to be super fun, just to chill and have a drink in hand for our virtual happy hour.
Yeah, it's like pretending we're in person and having our
networking,
get the jitters out drink.
I think this is a good experiment to actually say that if you cannot smell the alcohol from other people's glasses, then it's not real. So it's just like a great test. But no, with that in mind, we're just gonna wrap up the live episode. Thank you guys. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our website. So
thank you for coming.